Hey everybody, before we get into this episode, I want to let you all know that PATCHWERKS needs our help. Unfortunately, due to economic pressures beyond their control, the community that they have built at PATCHWERKS is at risk of losing its home. So they're reaching out for all of our help, and I am trying to amplify that signal. The impact that PATCHWERKS has had on the Northwest synth community cannot be overstated. And I can also speak personally. I'm not sure where I would be if I would have this show, if the show would have made it as far as it has without PATCHWERKS. In fact, Cindy from PATCHWERKS was the very first guest on Popular Modcast. And I'm going to keep this brief, but just know I have so many things that I want to say, but I want to start amplifying the call to help sooner than later. So I plan to collect my thoughts and speak more eloquently about how important PATCHWERKS has been for me personally and our community up here. But until then, please just visit the link in the show description to the GoFundMe page, and let's make sure that PATCHWERKS doesn't go away, because it is so incredibly important. I think I've said that a million times now. You get the point. So please, if you can, go help out. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Popular Modcast. My name is Tim Held. This week we have the return of Morgan McWaters from Worng Instruments. We're going to talk about the new soundstage and all the modules that Worng has released since they were last on the show, which we're going to talk about was a while ago. It was a long time ago. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who has recently signed up for the Patreon. I'm going to be shipping stuff out next week for the giveaway that I do. So be on the lookout around, Monday or Tuesday, likely Monday, for me to post all the stuff I'm trying to get rid of on the Patreon page. And then after I post all the stuff, all the goods that I'm going to be getting rid of, I'll be giving them away in a first come, first serve kind of fashion, where you just comment, I want this, and then I'll get all your details and ship stuff out. Cassettes, blank panels, patch cables, and maybe a module. I know I keep saying maybe a module, but it's still a maybe. So yeah, once again, thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. If you would like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Popular Modcast. Sorry for the late episode, but if you follow me on Instagram or keep up with my YouTube channel, you know that a car ran into my house last week. Literally, it ran into my house. God f***ing damn it. I know I've talked about the roundabout right by my house before on the show, but if you're not familiar, there's a roundabout. It's 50 yards from my house, and it is a vortex of chaos. In the 2 years I've lived here, 2 houses have had their fences smashed. I've seen a handful of high-centered cars just get left there. People steal them. They drive really fast, don't see the roundabout, drive right over it, get high-centered, and just leave the car running sometimes. So yeah, every day at, quitting time when everybody's going home from work, you're going to hear some horns honking because nobody knows how to go through a roundabout. And yeah, people drive like absolute maniacs. So I'm sitting here in the studio working on this very episode that you're watching right now, and I hear this really loud crash, which I know means something's going down out the roundabout. So I stand up from where I'm sitting now. Right behind the camera are my windows to look down on my front yard. I open the blinds just in time to see a old Volvo come barreling off the road through my yard, take out a bunch of my plants, chew up my lawn, and then smash into my front porch. Luckily, he didn't get into the house and no windows were broken, so it could have been much worse, but it was a pretty wild day. I, of course, filmed a bunch of it for insurance reasons, but also because, I like to film stuff. So in true Tim fashion, I made a little short film about it, so I'm going to play that for you right now, and then we'll get into this chat with Morgan from Worng. Fucking damn it. Where you headed? And we're rolling with Morgan McWaters from Worng. I was listening to your previous episode just to kind of like, get new ideas, see what we talked about then, so we don't cover the same exact stuff. But I don't know if you know this, but one thing I commented on when we first started chatting on that first episode was we were both wearing death metal like font t-shirts. And now I see you once again, you are wearing a death metal font t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually,
love a bit of metal graphic.
What's that?
I love some metal graphic.
Yeah, me too. So you were on episode 95, and this will be episode 275, maybe. So yeah. March of 2020. So almost 4 years, which is crazy.
That was an exciting time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was like right when everything was starting to like crack and crumble apart. In fact, if it was released on March 20th, we may it was likely recorded at least a week or maybe two before. So it's like things might not have been totally shut down. So
Yeah.
so we have a lot of catching up to do because you've done a lot
Yeah.
since. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think about where to start, but I know we did cover this on the first episode, but again, that was 4 years ago. So for anybody who, hasn't listened to that in 4 years or is new to this, a lot of your modules are kind of built around the idea of mid-side processing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A couple of them. Yeah.
And I was curious. I would like to see. I would, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of explaining that in the most lay terms as possible, the concept of mid-side, because it has changed the way I mix and everything now. Still don't fully understand it, so this is partially for me as well.
Yeah. So it's basically it's a different way of encoding stereo. So instead of just having the left and the right separately, you've got the mid, which is everything, and then the side, which is the differences between the left and the right. And so it lets you kind of process things in a more symmetrical way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your left and your right processing don't have to be exactly the same to get an output which is like balanced around the center.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that
Right.
would be the simplest way to do it, to describe it.
Yeah, and it's like, it's as we know, like mixing and just producing stuff or getting stuff, like pre-mixed to record, to lighten the load of post-production. It's like there's so, especially when you're dealing with modular, and especially because, a lot of people do just stereo pairs from their mixer out, that there's a lot of frequencies going on. So I feel like the mid-side thing is especially useful within the world of modular production.
Yeah, I reckon it is.
Yeah, no, I think it's so. I just discovered this mid-side split plugin in Bitwig, and it's so cool because, like once you just split a track, or I usually put it on the master, but I've been experimenting with putting it on more full, like individual tracks that have like a pretty wide frequency range. And just being able to split those and then individually process those, you could put one EQ on the mid and then one EQ on the side, and then run the sum of those two equalized mid sides into, a dynamic, like a multi-band compressor or something like that. Which, I hope no one out there is cringing at what I just said, because I don't really have any formal training in mixing, but I've been mixing my own stuff for like 10 years. So I'm sure I do a bunch of stuff, quote unquote, wrong, but
yeah, I mean, everything got made up by somebody at some point. So.
That's true. Yeah. So, seeing as it has been 4 years since you've been on the show, do you want to do a little recap of, just what's happened with you and Worng and what's come out since? Because I'm pretty sure you've released at least like 4 or 5 modules since then.
Yeah. Well, I think when I spoke to you, the Parallax and the Vertex hadn't come out yet, but I think
they were just about to. Yeah.
Yeah, I demoed them at the Tokyo Festival of Modular. I think the November before or something. So yeah, the Parallax and Vertex came out with, and their stereo filter and stereo VCA. And then after that, the Midside Plus came out, which is like a version of the Midside processor with a built-in width control that's CV controllable, and it's got a high pass filter. And then what else? What came out after that? Oh, then the acronym came out, the oscillator, which is a wave morphing oscillator, which is I called it wave morphing because it sort of does a thing that is not that common. But yeah, it's an analog oscillator where you can voltage control the waveform. so you can
Oh,
get
cool.
some nice like wavetable-y sounds out of it.
But it's technically not a wavetable, right? Because wavetable is
No,
usually like a digital set of waves that you can change through.
yeah. So it's because it's analog, and it's got like a voltage controlled mixer built into it, so you can, at audio rates, using the sub oscillator outputs or any of the outputs, you can modulate the mixing of the different waveforms together. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
get like a little bit of saw, and then a little bit of triangle, and then a little bit of wavefold, and a little bit of sine. And actually, no, it doesn't have saw in that. That was. I need to look at the module.
Ramp is like
Oh yeah,
ramp and
no.
saw.
It goes triangle, square, saw, fold.
Okay,
I don't know which
cool.
one. I don't know which one I didn't say.
So is it like I'm about to venture out of my depths of comfort of talking about like circuitry and stuff. So is this basically just like an oscillator core that has multiple waveforms, and then the output you're just basically you're just kind of mixing, you're controlling the level of the mix of each one of these waveforms, and that's how you're like
Yeah.
shaping the wave of the output audibly.
Yeah. It's a little it's a VCO on a chip called the SSI 2130, which there have been a lot of modules using that have come out recently, because it's a really nice, stable, easy to work with, provided you can solder the tiny packages that they come in. And yeah, it's got a voltage controlled mixer in it, and so when I started experimenting with it, I realized that I could use that voltage control mixer at audio rates to morph the waveforms.
Okay. Now,
yeah.
Did you find a way, like, or do you have to add any sort of like attack and decay at least to that, like VCA of the switching between, or like
No.
now I'm fully out of my depth here, but
I mean, there's a lot of like CV processing that goes into turning a single CV into the 4 CVs that kind of work together to move the different, make the different amounts of the different waveforms.
okay.
But yeah, once they're into that, there's no, like I wouldn't want to smooth it at all, because then it wouldn't be able to work at audio rates. And
I
if
see.
you have a
Okay.
really sharp attack on something, that's kind of how you get the edge of a square wave. So
right.
you want to
That's
be
a
able
good
to
point.
do all that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's actually, because I'm just so fascinated with mixing, and then especially the mid-side stuff. I feel like all of your modules have, like, stereo is kind of like the bedrock of what a lot of them are based off of. So could we talk about the parallax and the vertex, which I demoed on the show, but it's been a long time. So
yeah, that has been a while. Have I got one lying around? I don't know. There's a lot of modules just all over the place here. But now they're attached to things, I think. Oh wait, I've got there's piles and piles of modules.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
I don't have one that's unracked. But yeah, so the parallax, I think I don't even have one in the background of anything. Parallax is a low pass filter, which is, it's kind of like based on a like the sequential 80s low pass filter sound, and it treats stereo like there's a lot of stereo filters where you've just got the frequency knob and it just changes the cutoff for the left and the right together. Or there's some where you've got 2 knobs, one for left, one for right, and then that might as well just be 2 filters. So the parallax, you've got one knob, which is frequency, which does both, like, so changes the cutoff of the left and the right together. And then there's another one called frequency skew, where when you turn it to the right, it raises the cutoff of the right filter and lowers the left, and vice versa. And then voltage control over that, and the same with resonance as well. And then there's I added a 2-pole output to that one, which when I was looking at the circuit, I was like, oh, I could just tap the signal here, and then I've got a 2-pole output with the resonance still being from the 4-pole. Because I'm a bit of a fan of the Oberheim like 2-pole filter. Like I kind of I like that. So I added that to the parallax. So that's something which is not in the original sequential circuit.
Okay.
And it sounds really good, I reckon. I end up using that more than the 4-pole. Like
Nice.
it was one of those things where I was like, I could do this. I'll just do it and see what it sounds like. And I was like, oh no, that's really good. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I remember like while making those demos just being like, this is a really cool concept because like so basically if you like now will it like if you just feed it I'm trying to remember now, but if you just feed it into like the left, is the left kind of like if you just plug in one input, will it split it into the two? Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you can turn a mono input into a stereo output with that then.
Yeah, which is that's a really handy, like there are other stereo filters that would let you do that, but if you don't have that kind of control over the difference between the left and the right, then you kind of just end up with the same thing twice.
Yeah, that skew is totally essential there. That's a really, really cool idea. And then the Vertex was also, that's like a stereo VCA.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, so it's got the same thing. Like there's a gain control and CV over the gain, and then the skew between the left and the right, and the skew actually, rather than just changing the left and the right levels, the skew is affecting how much CV is going to the left and the right VCAs with another VCA. So cool. It means, it's not like there's a little bit more kind of dynamism between like the way that the two interact. And also I've used a VCA on a chip in that it tops out at unity gain. So you can kind of like as you drive the CV in a bit harder, like it with a normal envelope signal, when you get to CV control at 12 o'clock, you start topping out. And so instead of adding extra gain, which then can clip and cause distortion, it just sort of tops out like that. And so you get a little hold stage.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it means as well, like basically all your outputs, like your output from it is never going to be louder than the input. And you make sounds, like as you turn it up, the sounds sound longer because they're longer in duration rather than higher in level.
Gotcha.
So it's basically compressing the signal as it's going through. And then when you use the skew control with that, while you're driving the CV, so you've got that hold stage, it's changing the sort of, the psychoacoustic level between the left and the right by the length of time that it's at full volume, rather than necessarily like if you look at the peak levels between the left and the right, they're going to be the same, but you'll definitely hear the signal coming from either the left or the right because it's there for longer. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's one of those tricky psychoacoustic things to explain, but it means you can get all of that stereo action happening and then not worry about like clipping stuff or having a signal, because if you just use regular amplitude panning, then once you start panning stuff to one side or the other, you kind of lose half your signal.
Right.
And if you've got a complex stereo like signal going, you don't want to lose half of it. But if you just have it at full volume for less time, it works better.
Yeah. This is something that just popped into my head, so I haven't been able to poke potential holes in it, but I feel like what intrigues me like most, I don't know, not most, but what's really intriguing about your modules and your design concepts are you I feel like you take what could be just kind of you like utilitarian ideas, utility kind of ideas, but like actually put them into the type of module that you'd put after a cool utility, and you found a way to like really like combine those in a unique and interesting way. And like again, especially if you're going to be doing stereo out from your whole system for live or recording, like I feel like having a couple Worng things in there it's going to be very, very helpful for you. Um,
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's all stuff that you know I kind of see there's a thing that I can think of that doesn't exist yet,
mhm.
and then I make it. Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to
I think.
say, wait, what's that?
I was just going to say, like when I explain it like that, it sounds like, well, yeah, of course that's how you would do a thing, but yeah, but there is a
Well,
lot of
it's
stuff.
yeah,
There's a lot of quad VCAs out there.
yeah. I'm always fascinated, especially now with like it's been over 6 years since I've gotten into modular, and how many more companies have sprouted up since and have gone by the wayside since as well. But like when I see like a company like a new VCA or something like that, I'm always kind of like, okay, what is your take on this? And it's always cool to see like all these different ideas that are, and something that all of you makers of modular, what you have in common is you tend to do designs of something that you're like, I want this and it doesn't exist, so I'm going to make it for myself, and if I want it, then other people probably will want it. So um, it's such a cool
Yeah,
like punk kind of ethos or something.
yeah,
um,
totally.
Another thing I really like, because I've always really liked your design aesthetic, even back to the original modules. Again, like kind of punk rocky, a little metally, and I like the way that you've kept that spirit, but with like the updated look, with the what you've done with like the red lights and everything, and it's just your
Yeah,
modules look so fucking cool, man.
I mean, I think like modular is a really really cool thing,
Hmm.
and so I think it should look cool. Like
I
I
agree.
don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of some of the less flamboyant designed modules, like,
Hmm.
and they're still good, but you know, I think there's yeah, some of the like I don't know if you can see over here, I've got
Hmm.
a bunch of the the weird ones with the
Yeah,
gargoyles
like
on
the
them.
Maleco. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're cool.
I like they were some of the first modules that I got when I was first getting into modular, and
Hmm.
I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, like when I, you know, weirdly found myself in the position where I was making modules, I was like, well, I want to make them look cool.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I it seems like, I mean, I get it, cuz like there's like with the production of them, if most companies are doing PCB panels now because it's just like so much more affordable for, the maker and the I keeps want the client keep that's not the word I'm looking for. What customer, user.
yeah,
Um, and you're super limited on what you can get as far as like colors for the like because it's mostly just matte etched out, right? So that's why there's so much gold. That's why black and gold is so popular, right? Is
yeah.
because
Well, yeah.
you,
I mean, because the gold is like it's like gold plating over the copper, but yeah, it's
mhm.
quite there's you've got like your silk screen layer, and then there's the like the FR4, like the um substrata, like I think it's uh fiberglass.
Mm.
But yeah, oh yeah, it's a little blank panel thing. But yeah, so yeah, and then you've got the white ink, and then if you have none of the solder mask, which is the black thing or whatever color the PCB is, and there's copper underneath it, then it gets gold plated. And if there's no copper underneath it, then you just see the fiberglass. And so you can kind
Mhm.
of, work with what combinations of what, and then it also lets you
Yeah.
light up from the other side, which is a cool effect, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's. I know there are a lot of people out there who wonder like, why is everything black and gold? And then there are people who are, if you don't do it in black and gold, you'll get a million questions about when are you going to make a black and gold edition. But
Yeah.
it just kind of bums me out because, like, you know, I love that Mystic Circuits, like they don't,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Eli don't give a shit. He wants purple modules, and I want
yeah,
purple
yeah,
modules. And you can get blue, and you can get red, and all sorts of stuff. But then you're limited on what kind of colors work well with those. But yeah, so I guess that's all to say. Like, I'm stoked to see you, like, within the parameters that you kind of are limited to with design choice. Like, keep, it's your stuff looks original and still like has your vibe on it, which I really really enjoy.
yeah. I mean, I kind of, I don't know. When I'm working on like a circuit, sometimes like I'll spend, you know, an afternoon laying out the circuit and connecting everything and moving things around so it can all sort of fit together. And then I do the panel designs kind of like just as a relaxing kind of, it's like, oh, I'm going to spend an hour just like doodling. And
Yeah, yeah,
and I've got like notebooks full of like, I'll just like draw the thing. And it's, I don't know, it feels like when you're a kid and you're like drawing on your pencil case, like
totally.
band logos
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
actually, I want to show you something because I can show it since I've announced it. So my second module is going to be released hopefully within the next few months, through After Later Audio. I don't know how to design circuits, so basically I've worked with Lenny twice from After Later now on a designs, and what I do is just like I draw, like this is like a painting,
Oh yeah.
with all of the different stuff that I want on it, and then I'll send him a picture of the painting, and then he'll tell me what's possible, and then I'll just keep doing revisions. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's like me gamifying my ADHD brain to
Yeah, yeah, totally.
actually do something. um yeah, and of course the actual finished module doesn't look anything like that. It's bigger and everything, but yeah, that's, and I could see that, like needing to have that, like, that context shift, like from the the technical side of your brain, like, do like, that's, I can't imagine how complicated it is with, like having the idea for a design, and then like, you have your base knowledge of components, and then ordering, like like signal flow ordering and all of that. I could see it being a nice relief to just get some markers out and be like, okay, let's
Yeah,
have some fun here.
they're both kind of like, I find laying out circuit boards, like if you get in the zone with it, it is, I don't know, it's like doing a Sudoku or something. Like
Yeah. Okay.
there's like very set rules of how things will work, and you kind of, yeah, like just working within those parameters. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if it's all going well, you can just kind of spend hours doing it, and it can be almost relaxing. But then
Yeah.
sometimes it's also the worst thing ever,
Yeah. I
like if
imagine
it's
like
not working.
troubleshooting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I've the way that you just described it, and I've heard others describe it, reminds me of my closest friend from, growing up and everything. He is he's a I don't I don't think coder is the right word. I think I just showed how little I know about, but he basically does like app design. He's into
Mm.
coding and all that, and we were like in bands and all through, high school, or yeah, even year earlier, junior high, high school, and 20s, early 30s. And then he just like stopped playing music because he got into this, and I was always very perplexed by that. But the way he describes it, it's actually like more engaging for his creative mind, and he feels really creative, but and it's kind of the same spirit of what you were just talking about, like getting in the zone and like, you know, having something that looks so complicated and technical, putting these things together and then viewing the sum of its parts as this creation. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a patch, like a more advanced,
Yeah, totally.
version of, building a patch, signal flow and all that. Okay. That was a tangent there. But yeah, so I'm curious too, because this is something that I've heard a lot of designers say, but like most modular companies are, one to a handful of people running the entire operation, from design, sourcing, production, even, and then customer service. How is your balance of like design versus just like kind of like the customer support side of things, or not necessarily just the customer, but making it run, maybe the less fun aspects of it?
Well, I work with Signal Sounds for distribution in the UK. So
Pardon the interruption, but because Morgan brought up Signal Sounds, I figured it was the perfect opportunity to announce that Signal Sounds is now a sponsor of Podular Modcast. And for those of you who may be unfamiliar, Signal Sounds is a synth shop based out of Glasgow, Scotland. And as you know, PATCHWERKS has been the synth shop sponsor since pretty much day one for PodMod, but not everybody who listens to Podular Modcast lives in the United States. So I thought it would be cool to bring on some of the other cool shops from around the world. So once again, this episode is brought to you by Signal Sounds. So please check out the link in the show description to go check out what Signal Sounds has to offer. Really nice website, all sorts of really great gear. And yeah, if you live in Scotland and you haven't been down there, why don't you go check it out? Their store hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Let's get back into the show.
Previously, until I guess a year and a half ago, well, maybe less, maybe a year. But yeah, WMD were doing the like building of the modules and then shipping them out to stores for me. And so I was doing the sales, like I was, getting emails for who wants how many of what and whatever, and then I just tell them, and then they would ship them out. And so now, unfortunately, WMD is not building modules anymore. Like I've seen that they are going to continue designing them, which is great because they make some really good stuff.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
So Signal Sounds now are doing distribution and sales for me, and we're working with a company in the UK to do production. So yeah, I've kind of not ever been that interested in doing the repetitive production stuff. Like I like to do the design, and I like to kind of I make the prototypes by hand.
Okay.
And then I don't I don't want to keep doing that over and over hundreds of
Yeah,
times.
totally. Yeah,
There's robots that can do that much better than me. And yeah, also being in Australia, we're a long way from most of the people that buy modules. So if I was doing production here, I would, there would be a lot added on to the cost of every module just to ship it to the stores.
Totally.
So it works out better to
Yeah.
have things made closer to where they're going to be used.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it sounds like you have a pretty good balance. Like, do you have like a huge document full of like ideas that you want to tackle, or how do you decide on what's coming next?
I mean, I've got a lot of notebooks that have got module designs in them, and yeah, like I've always got a notebook with me, so I can, like, if I have an idea for something, then I can just gotta sort of sketch it out, or a lot of the kind of fleshing out of ideas I do, like when I'm on, well, not on holiday, but like after Super Booth or whatever, when I'm in Europe, I usually stick around for like another week, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
just think about stuff and flesh out some module. Like I was in Budapest after Super Booth last year, and just sitting in a cafe and had a little idea for a module, and in about an hour and a half, like I designed the panel, designed well, not like every single component in the circuit, but
Mm-hmm.
the sort of building blocks of the circuit, and it's like, okay, cool, done. Like,
Wow.
so that's yeah. Like sometimes they come really quickly like that, and you know sometimes they take longer, but usually the good ideas come really fast. So
I
yeah,
feel like that happens with me if I'm trying to do like if I'm making like a short film or a piece of music or something. Like
yeah,
I
totally,
feel like all of my best ideas are almost not even mine. They're just zapped into me from somewhere, and I have to just like, okay, I've got the plans. I got to execute now. Like, because anytime I sit down and try, like it seems like it's clunk. It just feels clunky, and I
yeah,
don't know. It's strange. So it sucks because sometimes I'll have some of these ideas are really good ideas to me, and then I execute them in a way that I think is cool, and then I'm like, oh man, I'm good. Sweet, I'm good at this. I'm very creative. I'm gonna do that again, and then it doesn't happen, and then I'm like, okay, muse, whatever it is, zap me some more because that was really cool when you did that.
yeah. I kind of feel like what you were saying about like ADHD brain before,
Hmm.
like I kind of, with all the design stuff, there's the idea part that you have no control over, and then there's all of the admin. And
Hmm.
so I'm always just like, okay, brain, what are we doing today? Like sometimes it's like you're working on the admin for something, and then like your brain gets bored with that and starts having good ideas, and it's like, okay, cool, we can pivot to that. Like, yeah,
Totally. Actually, this is a perfect kind of like segue, not even segue, but like reminds me of like I to get this podcast that you and I are recording right now. Like I reached out to you, I think like almost 2 months ago, because when I do this in like batches, so I'll reach out to a bunch of people and then I'll respond because at that moment that's my motivation and that's when I'm
mm,
like I got to get this done. And then, with time differences and stuff, I won't hear back like within that very short window of this. Oh, I got to do it. And then I'll be on
yeah,
to another thing. And then I'm like, oh shit, I've talked to four people a month or more ago about doing this. And then just like totally fell off in communication. And I feel fucking terrible when I do. And I do, that's my life, like with everything. And I feel like I just need a manager or an assistant just to like just for, not even for the podcast, just to be Tim. Just like, hey, remember,
yeah.
like, hey, you should
I
do
mean, it's
that.
kind
Like,
of it. I feel like that kind of a little bit of chaos is makes things a bit more interesting. You know?
yeah, it's definitely it's where I can create best. I feel like is my best
Yeah,
stuff comes out of like a whirlwind, and you know, um, yeah, it's just like I'll be 40 in a month from today, and it's like, all right, maybe like just I'm trying to just be better at being an adult human being, and I've made progress, but it's just like there's still a long ways to go, you know.
yeah,
uh, um okay, so I had two more things. All right, I want to like get into the nitty gritty of the updated sound stage because
oh yeah,
that's a module that I want that module. I'm going to get that module someday. I've never used it, but I know what it is and I know I want it. So I was actually like talking with you. I was like, I found a used one for this, but like I'm in a position where like 99.9% of the modules I get are because I do the show and people send them to me. So I never buy them. And it's not because I don't want to, but it's like I literally can't afford to buy modules because, it's not even that they're that super expensive. It's just, yeah. Why am I talking about this? Well, yeah, I feel bad like inviting, like there are makers I haven't invited on because I've never used any of their stuff. And then I just feel guilty about that. And I'm like, I should probably get over that because I can't use everything, like no one
Yeah.
uses everything, but
There's a lot of stuff out there.
there's so much stuff out there. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I was even asking you like, I don't know, what should I do? Because I have some store credit or something. But you instantly like, yeah, no, I want to go up to the upgraded version. So can you walk us through the difference between the first version and the new soundstage?
Yeah. So the main difference is the effects send and return loop,
Yeah.
um, which yeah, it takes for the people who don't know how Soundstage works, it's like a mixer where you patch into a. Wait, have I got one? Probably don't have one of those that's not plugged into something. Anyway,
I can
yeah,
throw a
you.
graphic of it
Oh
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
screen.
cool.
So while you talk about it, I'll just throw that up
Yeah.
there.
So yeah, you've got a grid of inputs, and if you patch in on the left hand side, then the signal is panned to the left and the right and center, etc. And the horizontal rows are filtered for like it's basically like an EQ. Uh, so you've got lows, low mids, mids, high mids, and highs. So you're basically just kind of building your mix in the stereo space and in the frequency space just by deciding where you patch it in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really good way, because I'm sure that like a lot of people, probably everybody, definitely me, has you'll be jamming away on the modular and then you get something and it sounds cool and then you're like, oh well, that there's a bit too much low end in that sound, so I just got to go over here and I EQ it and I do it. And then all of a sudden you're just messing around with EQs
Mm-hmm.
in software and you're like, oh wait, what was that idea that I had? And yeah, so it just
Mm-hmm.
lets you, instead of having to do that, you just go, okay, cool, it's a bass sound, it goes in here, done. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and then there's a depth control which basically controls the depth of the filtering. So if that's all the way to the left, there's no like its signals are just panned and not filtered, and then if you turn it all the way to the right, they're like hard filtered. And you can kind of control it's controlling the depth of a shelving EQ basically, but all of them at the same time. Um,
Okay. Because each individual jack has its own kind of like fixed frequency range of filtering, correct?
yeah, well, each horizontal
Each
row,
row. Right. Okay.
yeah,
Right. That's right. Right. And
has
then the
yeah
left to right columns um, make
is the
up the
panning.
actual stereos. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
So the send and return loop in the new version of the soundstage, um, it is not affected by that depth control. So it's
Okay.
just the fully filtered versions.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, that's kind of based on a trick that I learnt a while ago when I was, doing a lot of, recording and mixing, where I found that if like you can do quite extreme EQing and stuff on your effects sends before you send them to the effects, and
Mm-hmm.
because you've still got the so for example, you could have a vocal where you could, like almost do like a format filtering EQ on it before you send it to a reverb to get a kind of weirder sounding reverb effect, and then when you bring it back and mix it in with the kind of normally processed signal, um, you've got like a different flavor of effect, but it's still recognizable as the original kind of vocal. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I've made it so that the the effects send and return, the effects send rather on the Soundstage 2 is always fully filtered. So you've got that, like it also means that you're not sending any kind of low end rumble to your
Yeah,
reverbs. Kind of cleans
that's what I
everything
was
up.
just thinking of, like with especially like reverbs and just your low end and that just like really, really for me terrible that transition zone between mid to low frequency. Sometimes there's just that just seems like where I find the most mud.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and yeah, sending that to a reverb is not doing anybody any favors. So yeah, I really that was like the thing for me, is like, yeah, no, because I know what will happen. I'll get the version 1 and be like, oh, I need the version 2 now, and then
Yeah. I
um
mean, like the version
so
1 is still, I don't know. I don't want to be one of those people who are like, oh, there's a new version out, so throw the old version in the bin,
of
like, and go
course,
buy the new
right,
one.
no, of
But
course.
like, yeah, it was, the original version still does everything that the original one did, and when I designed that, that was, that was the like it was like the complete module that I wanted to design. But I guess it's probably been like 5 years now since I designed the original one, and I've kind of worked out
It's
a
got to be
few.
more than that, because you were on the show 4 years ago.
Oh yeah,
Had it only been around for a year before that? I feel like it'd been
I
around a
think it
little long. I
was
could be wrong.
no, the soundstage was the newest one that was actually
Okay.
out because yeah,
Oh, you
when
had Vector and the mid side.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, soundstage was the third thing that I did. So yeah, I mean it must be five, I guess 5 years ago.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like, yeah, I felt myself as I was saying that, be like, that came out in a way that people could like take it as like, oh, my version 1's no good. Like, no, I
yeah,
still like,
yeah,
if I had a version 1, I would be super happy to have it. But just that, like that send return, that feature of it is just something that like that would be really useful for me in particular, like with how I like to do things. So
yeah, and yeah, it's also I kind of changed a little bit of the filtering, like for the low end filter. I kind of moved where its position was in the kind of signal flow of the module, and so basically all of the unfiltered inputs are all going through the lowest high pass filter, basically. So you
okay.
because how it was kind of configured before was if you had the depth down and you had some like a DC offset in a signal that was patched into one of the high inputs, that DC offset could still get through, and it could eat up a little bit of the headroom. So
Uh-huh.
but which it's just a little quality of life kind of thing, and I changed the depth circuit so it is kind of a bit smoother. Like on the original one, the depth control and the level control kind of work together in a way where if the level was turned down, like below a certain point, and also depending on, because it's all analog, like there's a bit of variation in the VCA chips that I used for it. So
Mhm.
sometimes you could get like a bit of a volume dip in the middle of the depth control, and so
Okay.
I've changed it in the new version, so you've got consistent volume the whole way through just by
I see.
moving things around in the circuit a little bit, and
Okay.
yeah.
Um Now, okay, so you have the new features so far, the fully filtered send and return. But there isn't a send and effect send and return on the original, is there?
No, there's no send and return on the original.
Um, so CV controlled depth, and then is there something else like with the new VCA for the output where you can like just patch an
Oh yeah,
envelope
actually.
into it or something like that?
Well, you could still there was a CV input, CV control over the level in the original one, but the
Mm-hmm.
original one, when I designed it, um, the level control was like, in my mind, just sort of like a trim kind of thing. Like I wasn't kind of like, I was kind of thinking, well, I've got 21 inputs. You might patch 5 things in, or you might patch 15, and so the level will be different. And so the level
Mm-hmm.
control was just there in my mind when I was designing it. just to be like, okay, so if there's lots of things coming in, the output will be loud, so I'll turn it down with this.
I see. Yeah.
But then obviously when people see a mixer with a level control, they're like, okay, that's my master fader.
Right. Right.
And so the original one, it was a linear response, which is sort of, it's not that, it doesn't react in a way that your ears expect it would. Like you move it a lot and you don't get much volume change, and then all of a sudden it drops off completely. And so the new version, it's like a log response, so it's more natural sounding, and as a result, you can get some really nice compression and kind of like ducking effects, and also like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, you can use it. One thing that I've been kind of having fun with is using it like an accent. So you could send it like like an envelope on every like downbeat or whatever, and then just sort of playing with the CV input and the level amount. And like this one as well, it won't, like, there's a hard limit on the amount of gain. So you can, if you're playing with the level control, if you have the level all the way up and then you're sending it positive CV, it won't add signals, because I don't, like, Eurorack has some issues with headroom, so it's very easy to get clipping happening, and so I try and design that out of all of the modules.
Okay.
So
nice.
And because of that, you can like, the CV will only push the level up to the full amount. So
okay.
The amount that you back off with the level is basically the amount of accent you can add.
Oh, that's cool. And then you could reverse that process and do like a side chain kind of thing, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then that's a bipolar input for the CV then?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
cool.
you don't have to
you
like
wouldn't
invert
need a negative or invert something. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super, man. Yeah, I'm sold. That is so cool. What else? We're approaching an hour, so I want to make sure that I don't like eat up too much of it without getting to all the stuff. But is there anything like, have we missed anything, or is there anything that you about the new modules that you wanted to like?
I don't know. I guess, I mean, I could rant for longer about the acronym.
Yeah, no, that thing. Yeah, definitely. I'm into that.
Yeah, like this is a prototype, but it's basically the same. Well, it's a bit dusty, but yeah, it's the same as the production version, except I think there's just some small labeling differences. But yeah, one thing about the acronym that gets a lot of comments is the fine tune is the big knob and the coarse tune is the small knob.
I actually like that, because fine tuning makes so much more sense.
I know it. I don't understand. Like, I've got like the weird oscillators and the anti oscillators. They've got the fine tune is the big knob, and I've got a live wire AFG, which is also like fine tune is the big knob. But I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's like because the Buchla stuff has got like a I mean, I guess then with Buchla, it's not really, you're not tuning it because you're being experimental, so you want a big range. But like all of the modules that kind of take that, big coarse tune and then a tiny little fine tune, like that just bugs me to use. Like,
I wonder if it's as simple as, like coarse. Well, that's big changes, big knob, fine tune, small changes, small knob.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like.
But if you look at the what is it? Diameter? No, not diameter. Circumference. If you look at the circumference of the knob, just say you've got a big knob that makes big changes, and then a small knob that is your fine tune, you end up with basically this, like, for the same number of millimeters of movement around the circumference, you get the same amount of tuning change. So you end up with basically two medium knobs, but just one is hard to use and one is easy to use.
I love that. Yeah, no, that I've never once thought about that, but now that you've brought this to my attention, I will never, I don't think I'll ever go back. Like I totally agree. Fine
Yeah,
tune needs to be big knob.
yeah.
That's wow. Thank you for that. It's been a while since like something like I love when like like an idea is like so good and simple that it's like elegant. You know, it's like, yeah, that makes total sense. Oh, it's funny. So wait, people
Hmm.
positive response on that is what you're saying with a lot of
Yeah,
people
totally.
commenting on that. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
some people not like some people's immediate reaction is the knobs are backwards, and then I explain
Yeah.
why, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, okay." And
I
once
love
you
that.
use it, like, yeah, it makes. I mean, especially because it's got the through zero like FM or PM or you know, I'm not going to get into you know the nerdy discussions about.
Actually, when you brought that up, I was like, this could be a good opportunity because I'm imagining a lot of people out there don't even know what through zero means, and that's been something that's been a lot
Oh,
of new modules have popped up based off of this concept, and I think I know. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't think I could explain it. So,
yeah. Well, it basically like when you're modulating the frequency of something, you get to the point where, like, just say you've got a signal that's 200 hertz, and you're modulating it by 100 hertz up and 100 hertz down, then you get a signal which sounds like 200 hertz, but with more frequencies. Like
mm-hmm,
this is there's maths equations. Like when I was studying like communications engineering, they tell you you can do a little equation and you get the different frequencies out. But basically, yeah, you get a signal that's higher and a signal that's lower, and then the original signal, but it sounds like the original signal. And then but just say you had a 200 hertz signal and you modulate 200 hertz down and 200 hertz up, then you get to zero. You still have that. It sounds like 200 hertz, but if you go 300 hertz up and 300 hertz down, you hit zero, and kind of conventional oscillators, like it'll just stop.
mm-hmm.
And so then
Because it's
you're
literally at zero
yeah,
hertz
it's
for a
just
second, right? Yeah.
yeah, and so then that makes the pitch sound sharp. So you get to a point where you want to add more modulation because you want like more harmonics. Like you want the timbral effect of adding more modulation, but all of a sudden it's making you go sharp, like, and then things are out of
Mm-hmm.
tune. And yeah, so through zero, it's been implemented in a few different ways by a few different people, and there are people that will argue like that's not really through zero. Like,
Yeah. Does that
I
have
don't.
to do with like if it's an oscillating between positive and negative voltages versus from
Um,
zero to just positive?
I think like the purest idea is that the oscillator core reverses, um, and but then people have implemented it by flipping the phase of the output, or like, I don't know, like changing between. So like you've got a saw and a ramp, and they're basically inverted versions of one another. So
Mm-hmm.
if the core was going backwards, it would go from being a saw to a ramp. So people have done it by you know
So is
changing the output between those.
that phase shift happening at the output only happening within that range when it's like getting close to zero and then it goes back to its
Yeah,
original phase? That's okay.
yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
that's
cool.
not how it works in acronym. Like
Right.
acronym, like the 2130 has a reverse, like an input basically that is like, if you turn this on, it reverses. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
there's like a little comparator circuit, that you basically can detect when it should be going backwards, and then it tells it to go backwards.
Okay. Cool.
Um,
That makes sense.
yeah, but then there's the phase modulation slash frequency modulation debate thing. Like on the accurate, like this is an early prototype, and it says 30 FM on it. But the production ones, wherever, what's this? No, that's an even earlier prototype. But yeah, the production ones, it says PM, not FM, and that's
Okay.
because the there's one up there somewhere. Yeah, the input to that is AC coupled, so high passed basically, which helps. Because when I was experimenting with them, and I really enjoyed having two acronyms and using the wave output to modulate to FM the other one, but then because the different waveforms that you can generate will have like higher and lower amounts like above and below like the 0 volt, so then that could mess up the tuning as well. Because if you've got a signal where, just say you're using the wave morph and you've got like some sine below and then you've got like a whole lot of folded above or something like that, then it pushes it sharp. And so I just AC coupled the FM input so that would kind of pull things back into tune, basically.
And that took it from frequency modulation to phase modulation?
Well, if you are being like, a purist about it, it's just AC coupled frequency modulation.
Okay.
Because you're not really modulating the phase. But then if you kind of look at the maths and the output, like it's the same result as phase modulation. I mean, it's like the DX7 is a phase modulation synth, but everyone calls it FM.
Okay.
It's about when you've got the mathematical equation for a sine wave, there's phase and frequency in different parts in the thing, and it's like, which one of these am I changing? And this is not very exciting podcast material. No,
I actually am like, oh my God, I'm hearing things and getting a further understanding of something that has always been a little iffy for me. So no, I love this.
Well, it's you basically it's depending on what number in an equation you're changing. But when you're playing a musical instrument, like you can't detect a phase change. Like if I played you a sine wave and then I'm like, this is the same sine wave, but it's got a 60-degree phase shift, it would just sound the same. So
until you're playing them together or whatever.
Until you're playing them together. But then you could time shift them, and that would also change it. Like, so basically I said on the panel, it says PM, not FM, because when you do a static phase change, you end up with, so if I just say I've got a thing and I send it 1 volt, if I'm doing FM, I send it 1 volt, then the pitch goes up by a certain amount. If I'm changing the phase, you send it 1 volt, you hear the timbre change for a period of time, and then it sounds the same as it did before. Because so I was like, it's easier to explain what it's doing by calling it phase modulation.
So let me see if this example illustrates what you're saying, like maybe not mathematically, but like, okay, so you're talking about if you're going from a sine to a folded wave, and the point at which you make that frequency modulation, you're in the low dip of the sine, so that's gonna, you don't want that, so you're trying to avoid that. So does this what you've done to correct that basically make it so where if you are going from the sine to that folded wave, no matter where you are in the sine, it'll kind of like move that higher peak of it up until it switches to the I'm not saying that it actually does that, but is that kind of like how you could think about the end result? Or
I mean, I think if you think of,
Physics is weird.
yeah, I guess if you think of, frequency modulation is changing the pitch,
Hmm.
and phase modulation is a way to do the same thing without the pitch changing. So you just, because when you change the pitch, you get a timbral change, and um, if you want the timbral change without the pitch change, then it's phase modulation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's the, yeah,
I feel like I'm gonna play with my three body from Schlappy after this and
oh yeah,
maybe get some new insights as to what, because I have fun with it and I generally know how to make it do the things I want it to do, but I
yeah.
would be
Well, I
totally
mean, yeah,
lying if I
that's.
said I knew what was happening.
I mean, I don't think the thing is, like, when you're playing a guitar, like, nobody's thinking about, like, well, the tension on the string versus the length, and like,
Hmm.
I mean, all of these things are interesting when you're designing a thing, but
Hmm.
like, it is, I don't know, that's why sometimes when people get a bit pedantic on the internet, and I am definitely someone who gets pedantic on the internet often, so yeah, I'm not criticizing anybody who does that, but then, sometimes it's like, oh, maybe we should just be spending a bit more time, you know
Talking about the
listening to
music
some, yeah, or like, yeah, just making some cool sounds or something.
yeah, totally. Actually, after a while, of doing the show, because I was, like everybody who gets into modular, was just like, it's all I wanted to talk about, and it's just endlessly fascinating. And then, of course, like it's been 6 years, so like sometimes it can be a little boring, and I'm not super interested in talking about modules or like what they do and everything. However, like when it is something like the mid-sci thing, because like mixing is my honestly like the mixing, editing, and just making a piece work within a DAW, that's my favorite part of creation, really, as an artist, as far
Mm.
as music goes. I love mixing stuff. So I feel like you're the person I do want to talk about this stuff with, like the technical stuff, because yeah, you're like, I've just you make stuff that I'm like, oh, I'm glad that exists. That needs to exist within this space. So yeah. So, and also, if people are coming to Podular Modcast, the Modular Podcast, they're probably down to clown with some pretty nerdy talk too.
It's
So
true, yeah. Yeah.
I hope so. Anyways. Well, shit, Morgan. We're already over an hour, and
Oh
I want to
yeah.
make sure I give you the last word. So if there's more you wanted to talk about with acronym,
I mean,
go for it, or anything else.
no, I mean, I think, you know, I don't know. I don't want to just start talking about it like it's an ad or something. I want to. If people wanted to learn more about it, then they could, check out. I've got a couple of videos up on my Instagram, and I think, do I have any on YouTube? I can't remember. I'm terrible
I
at doing all
no,
of that
I was
content
looking at
stuff.
your YouTube, because I was like, I just want to, like, just get my head into the space of your world, and um, it's mostly like the soundstage stuff.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I'm sure they can find all the. But I totally see where you're coming from with. I don't want this to like turn into an ad, which I get, because I would have similar feelings like that. But also, I just want to like float it out there, like this is like your creative output. This is like what you're driven to do. This is your passion and your life in a sense, not your whole life, obviously. Um and not often do you get to just kind of talk about it freely, and I invited you here to do that, so
yeah.
you can wax poetic as much as you want about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I like, I prefer just nerding out about things in a like rambly way,
Hmm.
rather than, I don't
Hmm.
know, like, I'm like, one of the reasons why there's not any acronym videos I think up on the YouTube is I'm always, I'm like I'll be designing something and then I'm organizing for production and then doing all of that sort of stuff. And then it's like, okay, the thing's coming out. All right, I've got to do content, got to do ads.
Mhm.
And I'm not naturally, like there are people out there who are very good at making demo videos and stuff. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I'm not one
The
of them.
amount the amount of footage that I've shot and then have never used for, demo videos is larger than I care to admit. But yeah, I prefer to just like make a cool patch and be like, I'm using this to
Mm,
make this piece of music, and these are kind of roughly the aspects that I used to do it. But like
yeah.
the technical breakdown of it, like, yeah, that's a little harder for me. Like, with it, I can do it better if I'm like doing like I do Madrona Labs.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been working with Randy from Madrona to do like basically like video manuals for
Oh, yeah.
their products, and I've been doing the Kaivo, the granular physical modeling one for a while, and that's a lot easier because I can just get an OBS and open it up, and it's all like
Yeah.
right here on the computer. But when there's a camera to futz about, and then making
Yeah.
the patch, and the ADHD brain implodes, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Ah,
should probably like rather than be like, okay, I'm gonna do a thing and it's gonna be like the definitive video about this thing. I should probably just muck around for like half an hour and yeah,
yeah,
people can
totally.
find the good bits in it themselves.
That's kind of so. What I still do. I still do like hardware demo videos and stuff for the show, and I've just kind of like leaned into, okay, well, this is the process that I can like do this in a way that kind of makes sense. And but yeah, I have found that just kind of like, rather than starting and stopping, like, oh, I fumbled that word, like just go for a while, and then you'll have to slog through the edit, but it'll
Yeah.
be it'll actually end up saving you so much more time if you
Yeah, totally.
just do it and then edit out all the shit. But right on. Okay, so finally, what would you like to shout from the modular mountaintops? Anything you want. It doesn't have to actually. That I'm going to leave it at that. I want it to be an open-ended
Oh,
question.
I forgot this question was coming. I haven't thought of anything. I don't. What do I want to? I don't know. I think people should maybe just everybody should be spending more time playing with their modulars and not worrying about the cool new modules and all of that stuff. People should, yeah. I mean, I sometimes I get a bit, caught up in thinking about modules, and that's like, wait, I should just spend the afternoon making cool sounds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
make some cool sounds,
It's
everybody.
it's such a strange reminder that I think we all need, because it's just the nature of the format, I think. Because you could just take stuff out, and you could, like, you're not just buying the synth, you're just buying a little piece, and now you can just it becomes like a Lego trading
Yeah,
card music making kind of hybrid. And yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, and I've had to remind myself that. So yeah, I'm going to echo that for you. I agree.
hmm.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Let's
Thanks
not
for
wait
having me.
4 years to do it again.
Yeah.
All right, that's our show. Thank you to Morgan from Worng for coming back on. Thank you for listening. And thank you to all the show's sponsors, 4MS, After Later Audio, Patchworks, and welcome aboard Signal Sounds. Don't forget to visit the GoFundMe page for Patchworks, link in the show description. If you can help out, that would be amazing. If you would like to support Podular Modcast, please visit patreon.com/Podular Modcast. Get active on the Discord. We've got some new cool stuff coming up in 2024 as far as interacting and even collaborating in certain ways. So yeah, that'll be really fun. This week's secret word is mud bog. Until next week.